I remember the days when we had no running water. You remember. The times when we had to carry jugs and buckets up and down the street in our hollowed hands, with our bare feet beating intensely against the gravel and the southern sand. There was no room for young pride. No pride had to be pushed aside so we all could survive. As we walked from our house to yours and to yours again. I remember the days when the stench of the toilet suffocated the air. You remember. The only happy creatures there were the overly aggressive buzzing flies that made their way inside through the broken screen door. And I remember the days when we had no electricity or heat. You remember. The dangling pots and pans we carried in our impoverished hands to cook and carry our dinner in from our house to yours and to yours again. And I remember the days when we couldn't see or keep warm. You remember. When we wrapped ourselves in old smelly blankets and multiple clothing to adorn ourselves in, as the bottom of our feet and toes stood frozen, cold as ice on the cemented floor. Even with socks and shoes on, we still didn't manage to keep warm. Although in great chivalry, we survived the night and another and another and another, because we had grown accustomed to this kind of plight. And I remember the days when the only thing left that filled the cabinets were a near empty bag of flour, a cup of rice, and a can of sardines. You remember. Hanging on to your last bit of pride as you worryingly made your way inside of Heron's Grocers, pleading for more stored credit, secretly hoping and praying you would get it again so we wouldn't starve to death, knowing that we couldn't survive on what we had left. So from our house to Heron's store and to Heron's store again, we carried 50, 100, and sometimes only $10 worth of food to feed our roaring bellies. And I remember the days when we got beatings, the kind that are now classified as abuse. I know you remember that. When you beat us with multiple tree limbs that we were forced to go outside and handpick ourselves. All held together with a piece of torn cloth, put the fear of God in our bones and the imprint of your wrath on our butts and thighs. Years later, when I think about that now, I still get tears in my eyes. But I also remember that even in our great poverty and dysfunction, there was a real sense of belonging to family. You remember too now, don't you? We were a chaotic bunch, but a bunch no less. The outbursts of laughter that permeated the air as we mostly laughed at ourselves were contagious. We had some good times, and sometimes when I found myself in solace, I reminisce about those days because in some strange ways they made me the woman that I am. In spite of our circumstances, there was an untold, underappreciated, and unforeseen richness that once dwelled within this chaotic bunch we call family. And this is perhaps why I sometimes find myself smiling through the tears as I think about those years and about the women who somehow held it all together. In spite of the disc that plagued their function, they function nevertheless. Richardine Hightower, Minnie Hollingsworth, and Pauline and Corrine Hightower, all gone but not forgotten, which is why I write this. Oh, how I wish life would have given you more time, more love, more resources, more confidence, more peace, more hope, more joy, and everything you felt you had less of. And now that you're gone, the baton has been passed and we've taken it. Blazing small trails like graduating from high school, something you didn't achieve, or earning a college degree, something you couldn't perceive, far surpassing where you all stop, chasing dreams and living out purpose. Was this your quiet hope for us underneath that tough exterior surface? Yeah, it's true. We had a whole lot of poverty and little of everything else, but we had each other. And now it's time that we act like a family again and be there more for one another again. Because together, let's transcend above the generational barriers. The past alone is far too impotent to carry us to greatness. And we don't have to carry the past on our shoulders, the pearls they left behind in spite of and because of the struggles, and in faith in ourselves and in God will hold us. Let him remold us. Because with him, no poverty or struggle is too massive, no pain too broad to overcome. We can walk with boldness, birthing dreams and blazing trails and surpass where we came from. And remember, as I too remember, because they are watching and our children are watching, just as we once were. Let's make them proud Let's make ourselves proud as we remember together.